It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, but boy am I glad to be back at it again. Welcome everybody to my first video of 2023, and today we will be looking at the comic book Flashpoint, published in 2011 and written by Geoff Johns, the same man that brought you Superman Brainiac. Now I've read this comic book before, and I was going to wait for a little bit to review it. I'll mention why later in the video, but now felt like the right time to talk about this book because I just bought it recently from my local Barnes & Noble, and I thought, yeah, why not talk about this? This is a great book. Why not share what I've read about this book to the others? So, what's the plot for this story, you might ask? Well, the story centers around Barry Allen, also known as the Flash, and one day he wakes up in his office to find that everything around him is just different. Nobody seems to recognize who he is. Everybody around him that seemed to be bad is suddenly now seen as good. And those people who were considered dead in his life are now alive and healthy. And on top of that, Barry Allen does not have his Flash powers anymore. So now Barry has to go get his powers back and figure out how the world came to be before it is destroyed. Now I've tried to summarize the plot as best I can, because there is a lot to spoil in this book. It's very easy to actually spoil some stuff in this book, because it's designed in such a way so that you can relate to Flash very, very easily and actually see things the way he does. So when this book begins, it kind of gives a rundown of who the Flash is and what he's done with his life. It doesn't bombard you with lore or any specific story details. It just says, this is Barry Allen, he's the Flash, he's done this, he's met these people, and this is what he does with his life. It's very simple, it's very short, and it's easy for people who might not have read a comic book before to actually understand who this character is, and are able to get on his side and find some liking to him. Because as soon as the book turns to the world of Flashpoint, which is the world that I just described in the plot summary, you kind of understand how Barry's feeling. You understand the fact that this is not right. You see things the way he does. You see that his girlfriend is no longer his girlfriend. You see the people around him who were once villains are actually not so. And if you could tell by this book, yeah, the heroes have something to do with it. And given by the colors in this, it is not good. The twists in this book are just excellent. They are very creative and very surprising, I might say. This is not the first time I've read this book. I actually borrowed it from the library a couple years back, and now that I've bought it and read it again, it's still a joy to read. It's still very surprising. Even some smaller details pop out to me as I've read this. A lot of the heroes' backstory, like for example the Justice League members, their backstories have now changed. They are not who they once were. As much as I want to talk about them in detail, I can't really get into it because I fear it's going to be a bit of a spoiler. But if I had to summarize the changes to the heroes without giving away nifty details, basically, the people you thought were good guys are no longer good guys. They're more or less either morally ambiguous or just straight up bad. Also, the relationships between characters, such as what I mentioned, like Barry Allen and his girlfriend, they're no longer in a relationship because nobody knows who Barry Allen is. Nobody knows who the Flash is. That same relationship change is true for also other heroes, if you read in the book, there's a change involving Wonder Woman. There's just so many details in this book that are altered from the Justice League and the heroes we know. It really feels like the writers were coming up with these strangest but also the most bonkers and creative ways to flip the cliches and things we know about DC on its head. Now, are there details and characters that might feel like they could get you lost a little and make you feel a little confused? Like, who are these people? What's going on? A little bit, but this book doesn't dwell too much on them. It just kind of shows you, like, these are characters. These people should be villains, but they're not now. So you're not left scratching your head in confusion as to who people are or what they're doing. Like I said, the book doesn't give detail-oriented explanations as to who is who and what is what. It still is vague enough so that people who aren't actually into comics, or people who are into comics, especially DC, can still enjoy this book. By the way, the colors in this, as I mentioned before, are very pretty to look at. Even as I scroll through this book and just take a gander at all the art in this, this is a pretty good looking book. This doesn't even feel like it came out in 2011. It feels like it came out last year or a couple years ago even. And that just shows how timeless this book has become, especially in the DC community. There's a lot of bright colors in every panel, but there's also an underlying shadow to every scene that you look at. It gives this kind of ominous, threatening presence to the world that you find in this book. And it creates this sort of eerie feeling that something terrible will happen as you turn page after page. And it's really thrilling. It makes you want to keep reading. I don't think there is a single character in this book that I personally disliked, except for one maybe, or had any like annoyances with. They're all very, very likable characters. And Barry Allen, I cared about his situation because, like I said, you can relate to him. Especially some of the characters that are featured on this book, like Batman, Cyborg, and this one's Aquaman. You care about those characters because even though they're not different from what you've known them to be, they're still given personality, and you can still like them. Now, is there problems with the story, or is there anything that really could bug people? Well, for me, there is one aspect of it, the story, that really just keeps me from giving this like a perfect score. And somewhere in the story that they decide to introduce a traitor character. They talk about the character throughout the book. They mention it, and you know when they talk about it frequently enough that the traitor, whoever this character is going to reveal him or herself. And without spoiling anything, I'll say that this was probably not the best element of the story. It really just feels like it's coming out of left field, and it's just inserted in there briefly. They don't really dwell on it too much during the build-up process of who the traitor is, but when it's finally revealed who the traitor is, they just do one little thing, and then they're gone. Like, you could have cut that character out of the story, or done more with it to make it that traitor character interesting, but they don't. It's just a little disappointing aspect of the story. But besides that, I think this is a great book to read, and I highly recommend that anyone who is a DC Comics fan or just trying to look into comics or get into DC particularly, I recommend you read this, and you'll enjoy it. Now, why is this comic so significant, and why am I making a video about it? Well, first of all, this book was also happened to be made into a series, so there's like a whole bunch of other Flashpoint comics, but I'm just going to focus on this one for now. The Flashpoint book was the catalyst, or should I say the starting point, for the DC reboot that took place in 2011. And this reboot is known as the New 52, in which almost all the heroes get this like kind of soft reboot of their worlds and their characters. Basically, the New 52 means there's 52 DC titles that are going to be published, and they're going to just reboot everything for the world of DC. And despite it being a soft reboot, this reboot process would eventually fail. And as somebody who's read some of the New 52 comics, I can say with full confidence that, in my humble opinion, it is very much okay. Yeah, you've got some good ones, you got some bad ones, but it's not a bad series to read overall. The second reason I'm talking about this book is because DC is planning to release a movie in June 2023 about The Flash. Now, as exciting as that sounds, this whole movie is going to be based on this book and its story. And basically what it's going to do is it is going to restart the entire DC cinematic universe. So all those movies I reviewed on my channel, except the Suicide Squad movies, you can stay put. Yeah, they're going to be tossed out. They're going to be legendary. Most of the actors are going to be gone, and they're going to find out who's going to replace them. And by who, I mean the new head of DC, that being James Gunn and some other guy named Peter Safran. So while that does sound like bad news, I have more to add though. For some reason, DC, I mean the parent company, Warner Brothers, thinks it's a good idea to keep the Flash actor Ezra Miller on board, even though they're going to wipe out all the other actors from the DCEU, or as it's called now, the DCU. But the only problem is Ezra Miller has been involved in a lot of controversies, and has been doing stuff like this, and this, and this. And a lot of people don't like Ezra Miller now because of this. They don't think he's ready, or rehabilitated, should I say, to the point that he can cooperate and actually behave properly on set. And it's because they're keeping Ezra Miller that when this Flash movie comes into June 2023, I will not be seeing it. Please do not ask me to write a review for it. I also advise nobody go see the Flash movie, because Ezra Miller is not a good dude. And I also highly recommend anybody who comes across this Flashpoint review to skip the 2023 Flash movie. You could definitely do some more stuff with your time like that. Like, go watch the Flash show on Netflix or something. Go watch the film adaptation of this comic book, The Flashpoint Paradox, which is one of the most highly acclaimed animated DC films ever made. Or you could just buy this book. Read the series. Do anything. Skip the movie. Well, folks, that's about all I have for today. I really hope you check this out. Trust me, it's a good read. Even if you don't, if this is the only one you plan on reading, you'll still thoroughly enjoy it. That's about it for this review. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Hit the white subscribe button, and I will see you all in my next video, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned, everyone.